Okay, I am back with another Play and Explain. It's been some time, but I'm about ready to get back in these streets, in these Play and Explain streets. Right off the bat, we have a fish opening to 3 big blinds. I could go either way with this hand. I think it plays okay as a 3-bet. It's nice to put money in against fish. Strong hand. You're going to continue a little too often, and they should also, you should punish people for opening quite large, especially when it's likely they're opening too wide. I've been playing, but I've basically been playing live, and it has been a lot of fun, and I've done pretty well. But definitely getting some volume in online during the weekdays after work. It's just hard to record because I'll play very early in the morning, and a lot of the tables I'll be playing will break after some amount of time. Everything will be shorthanded and break, and then I'll have to find another table or hop between sites. So it's a little bit harder to record in that situation for me. But I decided to just record right after work today and get a video out. I'm gonna do what I think the last couple of videos we're doing, which was I'll play about 15-20 minutes. Any interesting spots I get into, I will look up the theoretical solution and then look up the adjustments that you should be making based on mass data. So should be some GTs. I'm gonna open this. Fold. Unfortunately, I wish I could get another 6 max table, but yeah, action has been kind of slow on this site as of late. Queen 9-3, so you can bet small on this board. I think I like betting higher frequency on this rainbow texture BBB, especially with a hand like this. Basically, you check and then your opponent is always going to stab. With the ace-10 of hearts here, I feel pretty comfortable checking. And here I will. I think it's close, but I'm going to isolate this fish. It's a little bit loose. And then I'll try to show this down versus some ace-high diamond type hand that calls, some ace-high club hand that calls. Yeah, so the size he's basically saying is a flush. It would be nice to have a spade, like a hand like ace jack, obviously with the ace of spades, some sort of spade to have removal to that type of hand, and then versus this size, nothing I can really do. I think it's a little bit closer when you have a 10 because the threshold is basically 2 pair plus, so they can say they have a flush, straight, right, etc. Even though it's likely that Jack 10 will barrel the turn. Three hitting pocket jacks here. And we get cold called by a fish. I think this range has to be it's going to include some ace queen, but it will also be very pocket pair dense, so 8s, 7s, stuff like that. I'll just try to value pocket 5s, pocket 6s, pocket 7s type of hands with a small bet. That's an extremely nice turn. yeah, we'll just use the 3/4 size, and we'll always go all in. I don't know necessarily how much fold equity I would have on the trip turn after they snap call flop, but I think something about their timing is just like always a pair. So I'm just gonna be all in. I'm gonna fold the ace-10 here. Oh wow, I got slow rolled on. Oh man, slow rolled for the video. that's brutal. It's kind of expected. I mean, it's always the trip boards you get slow rolled on, I feel like. Yeah, that was about as nice of a turn as any. But you know, like I said at the beginning of the hand, ace queen is going to do some cold calling, especially from a fish. Like, they love calling hands like that, almost exclusively. So, you know, it's unfortunate to run into quads there, but fuck, it is what it is. Let me get a weaker player flatting the small blind here. 10-9-4. I'm happy to check this hand back. Could value bet small. I think I do like betting small, but it's very close. Just because this player's on the more passive side. Yeah, I think I also, like, this is you know, karmic justice, because in the last video I remember I slow rolled some guy, but it doesn't even count because it ended up being a chop. I like slow rolled him with the nuts, and he also had the nuts, like the nut boat, and then so did I. So versus two big blinds, we will 3-bet to 11. Been studying a bit of strategy versus smaller 3-bet sizes from out of position. Ace 7 5. This is a high frequency check on this board, and you play some larger bets as well. But here we will check. And then villain should be playing like this is not a good size. I guess it's like fine, right? Like, you can build a strategy with this size, but the idea is that you want to pressure like pocket kings, queens, like the overcard region. So, and if you're going to open the action as in position, it would be with like a nice ace, pretty much. So. Yeah, I guess we'll look up the quads hand, so we'll see. Oh, actually no, because it's a cold call spot. It's annoying. It's truly nothing to be gained from that hand at all. Let me see here. Yeah, we'll look up a small blind versus cutoff, 3-bet pot. Flop strategy on ace 7-5 two-tone. And here we will raise to 2.5x. So on this side I'll play like a 2.5x strategy from the cutoff. I think this is fine in most instances because button will under three. Like I'm just not getting three bet very often, at least in a lot of these lineups. On more aggressive tables, it might be better to use a 2 big blind size everywhere besides the button, but or just play like the GTOW sizes. And then versus 3 big blinds, Queen 10 offsuit. I think this is can call. I think it's quite close though. Flop top pair, check. It goes check check. I don't expect him to open the action all that, like a fish to open the action all that much on this type of turn. So I have the option of betting like larger or smaller. I think this is fine. I think just using a pot size is okay. I didn't really consider much that he would fold quite often, but you know, if I anticipated that, maybe sizing down is good. This is probably a fold UTG 8, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I don't study any full brain. I'm gonna be playing on coin poker. It looks like I put money on Bet Online, and I was gonna stream some on Bet Online, but you can't even record sessions playing on that site because of the protective software that they have. So it's like it doesn't let you screen capture anything while the software is running, or like while the client is up. So that's unfortunate. Also, the rake is insanely high on that side. So it's if you're playing 100, it is a 5 big blind cap at 7% or something, or a little bit less, maybe 6%. So not the best rake to be paying, and they don't really offer good rake back promotions either. Online, it's sort of challenging to find good, like it's challenging to find good rake back deals for like casual players or players that are not putting in tremendous volume, because a lot of it is like, you know, based on like a leaderboard, right? So you have basically like super grinders that are like, or rake back grinders, right, that are just non-stop. I'm gonna flat this with the fish in here, and then we're gonna 3-bet this. It's still close, but all these players are sort of weak. Could also squeeze this, but I'm not as happy to do that because these two people are going to be underfolding. King 5 is going to fold. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So yeah, it's hard to find good like rake back deals as a casual player. Like it's better to find a flat, like for me it's best to find like a site that pays out like some flat rake back percentage. Global does that. There's some other sites that do that, but it's primarily Global. And then other sites are basically offering rake back depending on how much you pay in rake, which is contingent on how much you play. So that ends up kind of being shitty. I guess you could play on ACR and just get the flat. Like you could opt to do like the flat 27%, which is okay, you know. But so maybe I'll do that. But I have like an affiliate whatever deal through Zapruder that I wanted to utilize, but I don't think it's the best. I don't think it's the best setup for me. just because I don't put in that much volume. Always going to be flatting. This is like, effectively, this is almost a min-raise, so I'm going to call the pocket fours. I will be mixing this hand, and on a 30, I will call. Just bidding half pot. It's already pretty close. I'm just going to fold. I expect a lot of barreling on the turn, but I'm not exactly sure what to do there with pocket fours. Here with ace nine, you go either way. I think betting could be pretty nice actually. So I'll just use a normal size. You go large here too, or small. Let's see how long I've been recording for. 16 minutes. Yeah, no real spots so far. So that's another difficult part about recording these, is like finding a 20-minute window where you get into some interesting hands. Like here, you just watched me get like stacked once, versus like running like a boat into quads. So, yeah. I 3-bet king queen here versus a somewhat passive player. So a6-4, two-tone. This board definitely cannot get range bet. I'm going to opt to check this hand back. I think betting can become okay since like he's not going to be check raising as much, but I think the range of hands that is going to fold anyway, like will like fold on a later street. So like pocket deuces, pocket threes type holding. And then versus half pot, yeah, it's close. I do kind of like raising this, but this is a more passive player, so I think raising this is actually pretty good. Let me think. Maybe this is too merged. Oh, and we river the nuts. Yeah, so my thoughts were basically like that he might be slightly too merged on the. I'm just going to use a normal size here. I might even size down a little bit. Really hard for me to have bluffs. And then here, can use 3/4. Can use half pot. Doesn't really matter. 3/4 is more of like a 2-street game, so there's going to be like some turns. If you go 3/4 and you get called, there's a lot of turns that you end up jamming. This one is interesting. Yeah, I think this one is very interesting. So I'm going to use like a half pot size. That's tough. Okay. So yeah, he just put the money in. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to jam that turn. That's why I used half pot. That's an interesting one. Okay, so we got what we were looking for here, which is an interesting hand. Jax like, the reason I was sort of hesitant there is because like a lot of his overpairs are getting it in pre-flop. So I'm not entirely sure, you know, that I'm always going to see jacks there, but I guess a lot of players are pretty passive. Here we're three-handed now, so it's interesting. Five deuce, two-tone. This is like very close to being able to value bet even, but I'm going to opt to check back. And then if my opponent's going to open the action on this card, he needs to go quite polar. You know, checking is the most frequent decision that he'll be making. I'm going to be doing a lot of small betting and a lot of like medium betting. So on this turn, it's going to be basically small betting. Especially with the club. Sorry, I said like on this turn. Just blocking some of the check calls. Yeah, I think we got everything we wanted, guys. So let me sit out in the next big blind because I need to make some dinner anyway. And we'll jump into the sim streets. Whoops. Actually, maybe we'll play one more orbit. Versus the fish range bet, that's my default, unless unless I'm able to really characterize how they play. I'm gonna just default to range betting. Queen jack suited here is a mix. On a 74 we're gonna be three betting. It's maybe a little bit closer. Still on a 74 I like three betting. I should raise slightly larger since we're like 150 deep. There's big blind versus button, three bet pot, 7-4-4, turn 7. Actually, this hand is closer, like leaning more towards fold, but this player's maybe a little bit tighter. Open the pocket eights here. Set the big blind here. We're still in the big blind here. It's a little crazy. Ace 9-5 spored. I mean, from this position, you can do a lot of betting. I feel fine betting. Like, I don't expect to get checkers 11. This is, maybe a misclick or something. I don't know. Maybe he's just an absolute delinquent. But open this and check this back. Oh shit. Okay, it's a good thing we're gonna end this soon. Check. I think how often do I win? I think I win quite a bit. No. Where do you have ace 6? Okay. Full. And we have, this is our last hand down here. And yeah, so we'll get off these tables. this one, and I will be back in one moment. All right, what's going on? I'm back. I'm here to finish the video. I wanted to look at these spots that we had discussed earlier. So 2 spots, small blind versus cutoff, 3-bit pots. And we got the ace-7-5 two-tone, and then we had a button versus big blind 3-bit pot on 7-4 two-tone, turn 7. So I've done some. I've pulled these 2 spots up here, and we're going to go ahead and look at them. So this one is probably, like, the reason I did want to look at this one is because this flop strategy, and then the the impositions bet strategy as well. So on this type of board texture, I play primarily like big bets, and I do some checking as well, quite a lot of checking actually. What's interesting to me is that, like, these types of boards, in my perception at least, are getting c-bet too often. So, like, we see the reason why they can't really be getting c-bet all that often is they have this big chunk of Broadway hands as well as under pairs, and these hands are sort of weighing down the entire range. They have trouble with realization, and they have a tough time getting called by worse as well. So they fit very nicely into a check range. So it's good to do quite a lot of checking on these ace-high disconnected and ace-high two-tone boards. I don't think that's the case in practice, like I said. So when keep that in mind when you do face like B33. If you anticipate, or if you assume that your opponent's betting like very high frequency, if that's like their strategy, you can do quite a bit of raising. Even though, like, that might not be the case in theory. Like, we go ahead and look and you see like 5% raising range here for imposition. This would go up significantly if out of position were to increase their bet frequency. So anyway, as played, we check the king jack of spades, and our opponent stabs small. So this is what I was a little bit worried about, was that they were playing too high of a stab frequency, but this is something we can verify with MDA. Obviously, to a degree, like, we don't know what this specific opponent is doing, but it seems like their sizing checks out, at least. My assumption was always that you in position would play a little bit more polar of a strategy on these types of boards, because they're really looking to reopen the action with an ace. But it seems like, I don't know, maybe if we look at the general solution, range construction would be quite different actually though. So yeah, it seems like B50. So yeah, when you use the simple solution, you have B33, you have B66, and somewhere in between is B50. B50 at this stack to pot ratio is a geometric bet size. So this is like the size you would use as in position to get all the money in across 3 streets. So you just B50 all 3 streets, and by the river you'd be all in. So this is what I sort of assumed the theoretical strategy would be, and kind of looks like that. But I think B33 is quite effective, is effective in practice, because it's very hard to continue versus B33. However, like, if I'm doing a lot of checking with ace-x type hands here, stuff like that, I'm getting a pretty nice price. Even with my pocket pairs, right, like my under pairs, I'm getting a nice price versus B33. So it just basically pressures like my Broadway hand region. So anyway, let's go ahead and look at the MDA details here. So We want to see how the pre-flop caller plays in this type of situation. Small blind versus cutoff, they're the cutoff. And then flop, we want to see how often they bet. And it seems like they're betting slightly less, at least according to these data sets. Mind you, we're using the bot data set and the GG reg 100 NL data set. So we're sort of going to have to make some assumptions that Global Poker has a similar player pool to GG 100 NL, which I don't think is all that true, but this player was a regular that we were playing against, so who knows. Anyway, yeah, so ace high two-tone, this is the board texture, and it looks like our opponents are stabbing slightly less than the bots. So bot strategy has a bit less checking back, which is interesting. But another interesting component to this is that the reg range construction, has quite a bit more weak hands. So I don't know what the exact threshold is for weak hands. I'm gonna guess it's low pairs and below, just based on 51% of this looks like low pairs and below, and then the other 49% looks like middle pairs and then top pairs. So they do a bad job of valuing like the middle pairs, but it looks like they're happy to bet top pairs as well as like some other stronger hands. But this weaker region gets bet a little bit too often, specifically these lower pairs, it looks like, and gutters. So I think if this is the case, I don't know. You know what? We'll save the strategy. We'll get into like strategy creation streets when I update my GTOW and we get the AI, GTO AI. But I think my adjustment would be to be betting a little bit more marginal hands that have trouble check calling, and then trapping a bit more. Even though it's close because they're, yeah, this is a very interesting one that we'll have to use GTO AI for. I'm not great at creating like brain solving stuff like this, because they're not stabbing as much as they should be, but when they are stabbing, it's a slightly weaker range than it should be. So there's a couple things that you need to factor in, but very interesting. Anyway, we'll move on to the second hand here, which I'd already looked up, and it is a button versus big blind 3-bet pot. I'm using like a smaller 3-bet size as the big blind in the sim, and that's only because the button in game had min opened, which impacted the SPR. So this is like close to what it would be, and or it was in game. Anyway, 7-4-4. I played B75, so the strategy here basically splits and does a lot of checking. I think checking is definitely, I think I kind of overlooked checking in this spot, which is a little bit telling. Maybe of some other opponents' tendencies as well, just like betting too frequently in this type of configuration, especially with strong hands like queens. I'd expect to bet almost all the time, but yeah, that's the nice part about recording, is that I can go back and look and remember my thought process, and I do not remember considering checking all that often. So that is probably a leak that I have. Anyway, B75 was what we used, and B50 is the other option. You could use B33 as well. I think that that's like a totally fine strategy. These smaller sizes are built mainly around like the ace high region. Some hands that use some protection. The B50 or B75 for the stronger portion. The main difference is B75, like I had said in game, this is like a 2-street type bet size. So when we bet and we get called here, there's going to be a lot of turns. I'll go to like the yeah, I'm gonna use like the 4, maybe even the 5, like the 5 of spades. If we look at the 5 of spades, let's see. Okay, maybe I'm dead wrong, but you know, this is not like a human being strategy. This is not like a normal size to take. It's like the B75 when there's only like 125%. Like the SPR is so low. Let's go look at the 6 of spades maybe. Okay, so we see a lot more jamming, and that's what I was getting at. So when you use B75, you're going to be jamming the turn quite a lot. Whereas if you use B50, not nearly as much jamming on the turn, barring some extremely like dynamic turn card that increases the incentive for out of position to just put all the money in. So as played though, we get the 7 of hearts turn, and we see that there is a B50 or check strategy being used here. I guess this is just kind of luck on my end that I landed on this size. I didn't really like in game. I sort of considered like basically what brought me to using this size was that it would make ace high quite close, and then like small pocket pairs are obviously drawing super thin at this point. So like there's no longer this race to get the money in, and ace high is now chopping with all other ace high. So yeah, I didn't think that jams would be much of a thing, but I'm not sure that that's exactly why. I'm not sure, like I think it does have something to do with all ace highs chopping, and then like the board is a bit more static now, but I could be wrong. You'll have to let me know in the comment section or on Discord or something why this is the strategy on this type of turn. Anyway, we bet 50% pot and our opponent goes all in, and yeah, we call the end. We win money. And what I thought was interesting here was that like King 8 of clubs was calling, which is like bizarre. I don't get it. I guess you're just getting such a nice price that you're just like, fuck it, I'll call. Anyway, yeah, so we called and we won, and probably not that useful to look this spot up in with MDA Demon, but yeah, my guess would be that out of position here, much like I was doing, is betting over pairs way too often, and the betting range is way too strong. So when you face a check on this type of board texture, it's likely a very weak range. So I think betting small as in position is very effective, as it is in theory. I mean, like look at the strategy. So anyway, that is going to do it. I appreciate you guys checking this video out. Leave a comment in the comment section on any interesting hands that you wanted to discuss, or what you thought about how I played, whatever. And like the video, and thanks for tuning in.